My dear learners, how are you? Okay, fine. Thank you. I am also fine. My dear learners, you know, recently the COVID pandemic situation has been increasing day after day. It has broken its all previous record. Especially in our country, the situation is very much is very much anxious for us. So I hope you are staying your home and trying to follow the rules of health. My dear learners, such as the academic institutions have been closed over 1 year. For this reason, most of the students are dependent on virtual classes. According to the direction of Ministry of Education, many of the teachers are trying to cope up with the situation and taking their virtual class. My dear learners, I am also trying to take online classes. My dear learners, you know, in my past classes I have discussed about many of the important topics. Especially in my last classes, I have discussed about voice change of assertive sentence, active into passive. Now I am going to discuss active voice, how to transform active voice into passive voice, especially of interrogative sentence. But I would like to introduce firstly, before starting my class, this is MAHMUD, Assistant Teacher English, Rabita Model High School, Rangamati. Now, my dear learners, let's start. If the interrogative sentence, number 1, if the interrogative sentence begins with do or does. Okay, my dear learners, if the interrogative sentence begins with do or does, then we have to follow some instructions. At first, am, is, are. According to tense and tense and person. Okay, my dear learners. If the sentence begins with do or does, then you have you have to a clear idea that the sentence is present indefinite tense. Okay. For this reason, we have to use first auxiliary verb am, is, are. Okay. According to person of the passive sentence. Okay, my dear learners. You know, if the sentence is subject I, then we shall write am. If the subject third person singular number, then we shall write is. And another cases, especially if the subject the plural, then we shall write are. Okay, my dear learners. The first day we shall write use of auxiliary verb am, is. Okay. Then subject form of object. Okay. That means subject will be set as object will be set as subject. Then past participle form of verb. Okay, my dear learners. Extension if necessary. Okay, my dear learners. If necessary, then we shall write by, and then object form of subject, Okay, my dear learners. And lastly, we shall write note of interrogation. Okay, my dear learners. If the interrogative sentence begins with do or does, then we shall follow the first use of auxiliary verb. That means am, is, are, and then subject form of object, and past participle form of verb, then extension if necessary, then by, and then object form of subject, and lastly note of interrogation. My dear learners, let's see an example. Do the boys play ball in the field? My dear learners, this is interrogative sentence and it begins with do. Okay, for this reason, and the note of interrogation at the end of sentence. So this is interrogative sentence, and if we want to transform this active voice into passive voice, then we have to first write use of auxiliary verb am, is, are. If my dear learners, we have to follow the object at first, because the object will be set as subject of passive sentence. Okay, my dear learners. Ball, and this is third person singular, so we shall write is. Okay, ball, third person singular, so we shall write is. Okay, then object as subject form. You know, ball and subject and object form are both same, is ball. Then past participle form of verb. You know, play is the principal verb of this sentence. Past participle form plate, and then extension if necessary. In the field is extension. Okay, in this sentence, in the field, then by, and then subject form of, object form of subject, the boys, and lastly we have to write note of interrogation. My dear learners, another example: does she sing a song? Okay, my dear learners, in this sentence also begins with do or does. This sentence begins with does, and lastly at the end of sentence mark not of interrogation mark. So this is also interrogative sentence. As the sentence begins with do or does, then we have to follow the above rule. At first, use of auxiliary verb am verb. In this case, object yes or this is also okay. Third person singular. So we shall write is. Then object as subject form yes form. Then past participle form. This is the base form of verb present form. But in passive case we have to write past participle form. Do you know what is the past participle form of verb sing? Yes, you are very talented. Past participle form of verb sing is sung. Is a song sung. There is no extension. Then we shall write by and subject as object form. Object form of she. Okay. Then lastly we shall write note of interrogation. My dear learners, now I shall discuss another rule. If the interrogative sentence begins with did. Okay, my dear learners, begins with did. Then if the interrogative sentence begins with did, then we have a clear sense that did means the sentence is with past indefinite tense. Then we have to use of auxiliary verb. Use of auxiliary verb. That means was, where. Okay, my dear learners, was, where, according to tense and person. According to tense and person. Okay, my dear learners. Then subject form of object. Okay, subject form of object. Then past participle form of verb. Then extension if necessary. If there is no extension, we should not write any extension. Okay, if necessary. Okay, then by, then object form of subject. Object form of subject. Okay, and lastly note of interrogation. Okay, my dear learners, note of interrogation. My dear learners, now let's some example of past independence, how to transform the interrogative sentence active into passive. Did the man kill the bird? Okay, the sentence begins with did, and at the end of the sentence, note of interrogation. So this is interrogative sentence with past independence. Okay, now okay, for passive case, okay, we have to use the auxiliary verb was or where. You know, if the subject is third person singular, okay, okay, we shall use was, and in only for plural case we shall use where. Okay, the word will be written as subject form of passive sentence. Okay, so the word is third person singular, so we shall write was. Okay, then object form, object as subject form. The word, both of the subject and object form is same. Then past participle form of verb, this is verb, and present form, but past participle form of verb kill is killed. Okay, then there is next extension, then we shall write by, and lastly okay, object form of subject, the man. Okay, and lastly we shall use note of interrogation. Did you call me? Did you call me? Okay, my dear learners, this is active voice, and begins with did, and at the end, and you notice that at the end of the sentence, note of interrogation. So this is interrogative sentence. Now at first we have to write was or where, and if object me, then we shall write it as subject of passive sentence. Okay, I first person, so we shall write was, okay, for first person singular and third person singular we shall use was, and for first person plural and second person or third person plural, in any plural case we shall use where. Okay, my dear learners, was, then subject form of object me, I, then past participle form of verb, called. Okay, and then there is the extension we shall use by, and then subject form, the subject as object form. You know, both the subject and object form of second person you is same, and lastly we shall use note of interrogation. Another example, did he help the poor? Okay, my dear learners, in this case object the poor will be set as subject of passive sentence, so the poor plural form, and for this reason we have to use now where. Okay, where, then subject form of object the poor, then past participle form of verb helped, and then there is no extension in this sentence, so now we have to write by, and then the object form of subject he, and lastly we shall use note of interrogation. Okay, my dear learners, I hope you I hope you have been able to understand that if the interrogative sentence begins with do or does, that means present indefinite tense, and if the interrogative sentence begins with did, that means past indefinite tense. Then we have been able to transform these active voice into passive by using the above rules. Okay, my dear learners, I hope you will stay home and practice more and more. Then you will be able to cope up with the situation. Thank you very much.